Good day, neighbor. What's going on? All you good? Everybody good? Nice. Happy Sunday. Hope everybody's alright. Hope you all are having a wonderful day so far. Thank you again for coming and spend a little bit of time with me. I really appreciate it. Um, to everybody that I invited to like and subscribe to the channel and give me, some good feedback and some words of encouragement. I really appreciate it. I appreciate y'all. See why I love all you. Anyways, I hope how was your week last week? I hope last week was a really productive and rewarding week. I like to say that, productive and rewarding. Like to all my people that I send good morning texts and stuff, especially on a Monday, they get that. I hope you have a productive and rewarding week. And productive and rewarding doesn't always mean in terms of financial or material or what you achieve at work or school. It could mean productive and rewarding for yourself, for your growth as a person, as an individual. You might have had an experience this week that showed you something that resonated with you. You might have handled it a certain type of way and realized, and looking back on it, you realize, yeah, boy, I make some growth. I've changed. This is how I used to handle this, and this is how I'm able to handle it now. So that's always a good thing. So I hope, since today is the first day of the week for some people, it's the last day of the weekend for me. I want to wish you all a productive and rewarding week this week. I hope when Friday rolls around and you look back, you realize, that there something changed. There was a change somewhere, and that's the purpose, that's the aim. You know what I'm saying? I used to there was a point in time where I did weekly goals. I had weekly and monthly goals because I realized I was one of those people, making those big lofty New Year resolutions was not for me. I'd make a list of, 10, 15, 20 things, and at the end of the year, if I achieved 2 or 3 out of them, that was a lot. And it felt very, you'd feel defeated, the year end, and you look back to see how far you've come and the changes you've made, and things that happened, and you couldn't match up what happened with what's on the list, and that used to make me very depressed. So I stopped making New Year's resolutions specifically for that, because I felt like at the end of the year, all of these things that I wanted to achieve, I didn't, and I wasn't looking so much at all of those things were I don't want to say material things, but it was a lot of tangible things, and I wasn't even looking at, I didn't even count this, the growth I had made as a person, the things I achieved as an individual. I didn't look at that. I want to say, in terms of being a better person, I didn't look at those things, but they count. And I think that actually that they are more important than the other things, because they're the building blocks for the other things. If you don't develop, if you're not a strong person, if you're not a courageous person, if you're not a humble person, if you're not a helpful person, if you're not a kind person, those things do affect whether you're able to achieve other things. And that's what I believe, So I stopped making these big lofty New Year's resolutions, and I broke it down. I started doing monthly goals. So what I would do, I would divide the year into 2. I'm in July, kind of almost in the middle, a little after the middle. I still count it as the middle. So my birthday is in July, so I would make by my birthday goals. I would list 3 or 5 things that I wanted to achieve by my birthday. And then I would have by the end of the year goals. So things I know that would take a little bit longer, I put them in my by the end of the year. And other times I would do, and then I broke those down into weekly goals, and that helps. Weekly goals kind of, this week I want to drink more water. It's little things, simple things. Drink more water. I want to exercise at least 2 or 3 times a week. I want to write in my journal at least 2 or 3 times a week, because life is dynamic, things happen, and you plan to do all of these things, and then something happens that prevents you from doing that thing that you plan to do, because that's how life is. And that's what I wanted to talk about today: divine timing. Now, it's a concept that I think I'm still struggling with a little bit, but not as bad as I used to before. I'm the type of person, or maybe I've become the kind of person. I've had so many experiences in my life, and a lot of them are very disappointing, whether it was through my own actions, as a result of my own actions, or just because that's the way it was supposed to be. And you remember I told y'all I feel like I live in my life in hindsight, and that's really how I feel, because it's like, those things happened, and it was only afterwards that I was able to see, yes, this is why this happened. If this didn't happen this way, then you wouldn't have been able to do this or do that or achieve whatever. And one of the biggest instances of that was in 2015. So in 2015, in January of 2015, I started SGU. I was very happy, very excited, because it's something that I'd wanted to do for so long, and just played the royal. I just kept putting it off, and then boom, before you knew it, I had a baby, and I had different responsibilities, and the thought of going back to school just seemed almost impossible. So when I realized that I could do it, and I had the opportunity to do it, I just jumped at it in 2015 without thinking of anything else. I was like, listen, I'm getting to go to school, I'm doing it. I'll figure everything else out along the way. So I started school in January of 2015. I didn't have the money to pay for it. And in talking to certain people, I found out that I could get a government grant that could pay up to $2,000 towards my tuition. So I signed up, I applied, I got it. I started my first semester. I was very happy. I couldn't do much courses as much as I wanted to, because there were certain requirements that I had to fulfill first, before I could really get into the meat of school. First semester, I was happy. I was at SGU. Everything was nice. I was motivated and everything. And then fall semester came around. I pre-registered. At pre-registration, of course, I applied for the grant again. But by the time of pre-registration, I wasn't sure whether or not I was going to get it. So, but I was allowed to pre-register. I pre-registered, started classes. So right around before midterms in October, one day I went into my school account and I realized that I was locked out. It was called Sakai at the time. I realized I was locked out of Sakai. And long story short, I ended up in Colin Dow's office. I forget exactly what he was. I think he was the dean of admissions. I could be wrong. I ended up in Mr. Dow's office anyways. So, when speaking to him, he let me know that they had not received any payments for my courses at the time. And, I would either have to pay now or I would have to withdraw. I didn't have the money. I had tried getting in contact with people, on the government side to find out whether or not, my grant was being processed, whether it was approved, whatever, what was going on. And nobody was able to tell me anything at the time. And it came down to, well, unfortunately, I'm sorry, you're going to have to withdraw. So I withdrew, and I was so depressed. I just felt so defeated. I was like, it took me so long to finally start. And now that I've started, it's like I can't even finish. I was really, 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 really depressed. But I I had other things to do. I still had to take care of my child. I still had other responsibilities. So I found a job. And it wasn't, nothing big. This man opened a restaurant in town, and I was going to be waitress slash bartender. You know, I needed the money. I really didn't care at the time. It was what was available, and I took it. And while I was there, I remember they were, going through the newspaper one day, and I saw this ad for a writer's workshop. And people who know me know that I love to read and I love to write. I haven't been doing as much of it as I want to, because of, I really, weekends is probably the only time that I really have to dedicate to writing. But so yeah, so I started the ad for the writer's workshop, and I was like, oh, this looks like fun. This looks like something I would enjoy doing, and I might be good at, I'll think about it. Actually, I didn't even say I'll think about it. I was like, okay, I'll do this. So I saw the ad, and I made up my mind I was gonna, sign up and everything. And that was that. So I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks, to the deadline. So those 2 or 3 weeks passed, and I didn't even think about it again. I didn't even sit down to really write anything. And one day, I looked at the newspaper again, and it said, today is the deadline. And I was like, shucks, I haven't even written anything yet, and I haven't even filled out the application form, nothing. So I left work, and I ran down to that computer place. I think it's Cool Systems. I'm forgetting Grenada, and I don't like that at all. So I went down to Cool Systems, that computer place right opposite Bruce Street Mall. I went there, and I filled out the application. I printed the application, filled out the application. I sat down and I wrote, you had to write like I think it was like a paragraph, 2 or 3 paragraphs of a story. And I wrote something quickly. I reread it. I really didn't like it, but I was like, you know what? I don't have the time to perfect this, So this is going to have to do right now. And I submitted it. And to be honest, I did not think that I was going to be chosen. And, to know that I submitted it, not even believing, that I was good enough to be selected, I didn't think I was going to be chosen at all. So when I got the email that I was selected to participate in this writer's workshop, I was ecstatic. I was really happy, because it was like, well, if I just sit down and really write this thing and, put the energy and the time and the effort into it, well, what would really happen, So I was happy. And my boss was happy, was okay with, giving me the couple days to take part in the workshop. I went, and it was top 5, one of the best experiences of my life. Those 3 or 4 days were it was just awesome. I made some really great friends, people who I'm still pretty close with. I learned a lot. I got to, I met and worked with and was mentored by, people I, looked up to, and, whose work I had read. Unia Kempadu, like, I had read one of her books, and it was like, here she is, in the flesh, working with me. Ricardo Keynes Douglas was there. I'd read his stuff as well, and it was just a little bit surreal. And then they had these, facilitators, Alicia and Dashka, and Dashka, who it's just like, was really fun and very nice, and Alicia was as well, and it was just a really great workshop. And I really enjoyed those couple days. I didn't think about anything else but writing and coming up with this really great story. And it's funny how ideas come to me because they the most unconventional ways. So the we had to come up, they took us through the elements of writing and the parts of the story. Like, no, you're doing literature in school, you have the plot, you have the characters, you have the climax, all of that. We went through that. So what we had to do was we had to write a story, and we had to divide our story into those parts. We did that, and then everybody had to create a storyboard, and we walked around and looked at everybody's story, and and that very first story I wrote, it's just I thought it was really nice. Everybody was going around, oh, everybody's kind of critiquing and saying, oh, well, this, I thought this was nice, I might have done this way. It was just a nice experience, and it was a new one for me in terms of outside of my teachers at school. uh, Nobody else has really read anything I wrote. So it was new. It was a new experience. But it was good, and then the day came when we had to we came up with that how this that story. Okay, this is a story that you're going to write for us to choose, because the purpose of the workshop, it was a collaboration between a nonprofit organization called Room to Read and the Grenada Schools Incorporated and the Ministry of Education. So they were trying to boost literacy in Grenada by creating stories for children of Grenada written by Grenadian authors. And the whole thought process about it was that children are probably the children will be more able to relate to the stories if it's about things or people that they're used to. And I really loved, I still very much love that initiative, because I remember Dashka saying that books, can be mirrors or they can be windows. Windows meaning, it's going to open up into a world that you've never been, things you've never seen, never experienced. Like me growing up reading about snow and the circus and all the things that we didn't have here in the Caribbean. Or books can be mirrors in that you can see yourself, you can see the things that happen to you, in this story. You can relate to this story. And what we had a lot of books that were windows. When I was growing up, a lot of the books that I had, or all of the books that I had, were windows. Not many of them were mirrors. And I think that's what I wanted, when we had that session that day and we spoke about that. I think that's what I wanted my book to be. I thought about Raiden. I thought about, my nephews, them reading a book and being able to see themselves in that book, so that final day came and we had to write a story about someone who wanted to do something but couldn't. And I kid you not, I do not know, I just knew that this is what I was going to write. And I wrote this, just said this idea out loud, and Unya was like, and Dashka was like, this is going somewhere. And that is how this was born, Omar's Jab Jab. And I think me writing about the Jab Jab was, I'm very much in love with Grenadian culture, not just on the sidelines. I play pan. I have, I was a part of the Spice Island Youth Quake, which was like a national folk choir. I danced, I sang, I took part in arts festival, did impromptu speaking, I did choral speaking, I did, you know, choir, I did. So, I participated in an arts festival. I choreographed a dance for arts festival that won, by the way. And it's just culture, Grenadian culture is a big part of me. And, I just felt like this is something that I needed to put out. This is a story that I needed to get out. And, when we did the stories and we submitted it and everything, and there were 11 or 12 of us at the workshop, and 6 books were going to be chosen for publication. And when I found out that my book was going to be one that was going to be published, I was over the moon. I was over the moon, because this is something that I've always wanted. I've always wanted to write. I've always loved writing. I have notebooks and notebooks that I've lost and thrown away of stuff that I started writing but never finished. And, me finishing this and me, when I got that email that my book was, chosen for publication, I was on top of the world. And it's something that I've always wanted to do. And here it was, I have accomplished this. And let me tell you how this ties into divine timing. If I did not have to withdraw from SGU, if I was still in school, I would not have even considered participating in this writer's workshop, because I would lose 3 days of classes, and that's a lot. That was a lot. And I wouldn't have wanted to lose that much time at school. So when I look back at it, I had to withdraw so that I would be able to be in a position where I had the time to focus on the book. A lot of times things happen and we feel like, it didn't go the way we wanted it to go, and, it's just not how we wanted to go. And it's only in looking back you realize this had to happen for this to happen. You understand what I'm saying? And I had to learn to let go, and it's not me, it's not about me, it's not my timing, it's not my will. And last year especially, I found myself saying a lot of times, not my will, but thine own. A lot of the times when things just didn't go the way I wanted it to go or the way I expected it to go, I just tried as much as I could to let go of the situation and just let things be. And that's what I wanted. That's my message today. That's what I want to, bring across today. That sometimes, things happen and we don't like the outcome. We don't like it because it's not what we planned. It's not the way we wanted it to go. But in looking back, you realize that this is how it had to be. This is how it had to be. I've been searching for a new job since last year. Since last year, I went to countless, interviews, and, so many times I thought this was the job. This was the job. This is the one I want. This is the one I want. And the one I have now just popped out of nowhere, out of the blue. And, I just, because the time was right. You know what I'm saying? And it's hard to do. It's not the easiest thing to do. And I'm telling you, because I'm still struggling with it. It's not always easy to just let go and let things be. And believe that things will happen when they're meant to happen, the way they're meant to happen. It's not the easiest thing to do. Trust me. Because every day I still struggle with it. But it does help to believe that things will happen when they're supposed to happen, the way they're supposed to happen. And it may or may not be the way you planned it. But believe, the belief that things will change and things can change, make a big difference. And it helps to make it easier for you. A little bit easier, not a whole lot. Because if you like to hold on to things and, like to be in control as much as I do, it's not easy. But you can try. So this week, I want you to think about that. To, go through this week believing whatever situation it is that's happening. To continue to believe and to pray that things will change. The situation will just work itself out, and you just have to sometimes just let go and step back and not focus on it, and just put your energies in other things, because this is something you have no control. Sometimes you have no control over it. You understand what I'm saying? And the best thing to do is to just step back, let go, and believe that it will work itself out. And that's exactly what happened with this book. So I hope, again, you guys are going to have a productive and rewarding week. And remember to spread love. You know what I'm saying? Because love really is the answer. So I see you guys next video. Don't forget to like and share and subscribe to the channel. So I see y'all again. Peace.